does not have the game audio included. That's why. Alright, well, we get it fixed. No biggie. We will have that fixed before too long. We will get into the server in just a second. Alright, well that should work now.
Green light, show them what you got.
And here we are with free practice. Sorry about the little bit of the hiccup there. Getting it started with some new stuff that I am toying with. And making sure that I get my audio checks and everything like that done. Ormiston, top of the timing boards currently. Coming through the long right-hander. Turn number 4. The Mustang likely to have some good pace around here, especially with the amount of long straights that it would be able to use to its advantage. Profit with a little bit of an off there at turn 7, I believe. Thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning in just now, you're a little bit early. We're here with free practice. For those who have tuned in, every short passage of time, there should be about 10 or 15 minutes, there should be a link popping up to my personal Discord that I have made in this past week. If any of you would be interested in joining my personal community where you can hang out with me, get some information on the streams. If you want to learn how to commentate racing, I'm going to be doing some of that. Or if you want to find some different leagues, I'm combining all the different leagues that I commentate for in one spot. And trying to make it a little bit more of a hub rather than just a regular Twitch Discord. I would like to make it easier for other Twitch streamers, other broadcasters to be able to get out there, get involved with leagues, find more events to commentate. There are a lot of events that people would like to have commentated, but maybe they can't quite find a commentator or don't know where to find a commentator. Something that I would like to do is make it easier for everyone to have commentated events. So once those links pop up in the stream, then we will be able to get some more people into the streams and into the Discord. Already got about 50 members in there, over 50 members in there, as we've got the pair of Ferraris of Trixit and Aramich. And then I believe, no pairs of Mustangs, no shared liveries there. Ouroboros and the Audi. Very quick out of the gate getting into the 44s, but something what we should see tonight is very, very close times between all of the different drivers out here. The top 10 or top 15 should be within about a second based on the data that we have seen previous to this event. We did see some very close racing in the preseason round at Suzuka, and we're looking to see more here at the season opener at Barcelona. Very tricky track. Should be similar to Suzuka in limited overtaking opportunities, but more overtaking opportunities than Suzuka. Suzuka did definitely create some trains. but a lot of space for the field to get spread out. If you get caught out from the slipstream coming out of the final turn, you will be very disadvantaged in terms of the top speed compared to those who may be getting a little bit of tow ahead of you. A fair mix of cars all the way through the field. Peach and the Mustang sliding through what I believe is turn 6 or 7, that very tricky uphill chicane. As we are about halfway through this free practice session, I would like to ask those of you who, if it's maybe your first time racing here with GoFAST Racing, or if it's your first time tuning into the stream, if you wouldn't mind throwing me a follow. We're trying to hit 350 followers, or maybe even 400 if I am lucky. And the best way to do that would just be to get some followers there. We have had a lot of new people, especially here with GFR, the new partnership with Xbox Community League, running a companion series as a bit of a warm-up to the XCL series. And the Audi of Ouroboros eclipsed by quite a mixed bag of cars. We've got a Mustang, an Aston Martin, and a McLaren ahead, as well as another Audi. Your mom in the McLaren 720S GT3 getting a little bit squirrely coming through the final chicane. Eventually bringing that car back into the pit lane. Tire wear is going to be a factor here. We have a very, very hot, slick track. It is 25 degrees Celsius ambient, but we are looking at 34 degrees Celsius on track, which is over 120 degrees, I believe, or right at 120 degrees. And that is quite a hot racing surface, and it will only get hotter the more cars that we have on track. We don't really have that much rubber down right now, and we will be looking to see that track temperature increase by a lot. Quite a few cars out here on track right now. The majority of the field, as we are expecting quite the large grid. We have over 40 drivers in here, 41 to be exact, actually technically right at 40, and a full mixed bag of cars. We have McLarens, we have BMWs, we have Audis, we have Ferraris, we have Mustangs, we have Aston Martins. I mean, is there really anything that we are missing in terms of the main handful of cars that we should see? It is anyone's game for the top spots. The top 13 all within nearly a second. The top 20 within 2. And we haven't even had everyone come out and put a full lap in yet. So we have about 10 minutes left in this free practice session before we get ready with our 15-minute qualifier. And then get on with our 45-minute race. We will have a one stop here. So tire wear shouldn't be too much of an issue, but it will at least be slightly on the mind, as tire strategy is going to be a big factor here. The undercut should be pretty strong with quite the long pit lane. as using those fresher tires or using worn tires the least amount of time should be able to close up a little bit of a gap. As let's go on board with our provisional pole sitter. As we come across the start-finish line, riding along here with your Mom 318s, we've got quite a gaggle of cars coming out of the pit lane, hard braking into the S's of 1 and 2. Very easy to make a lot of time here or to lose a lot of time into the very, very, very long right-hander turn 3. Your Mom does eventually back out of the lap. As we may go on board with Ormiston here. Now coming through turns 1 and 2 through the S's. Trying to carry as much speed as possible. Then you need to very much do whatever you can to get that car rotated early and get the setup to power out of turn 3 before you get ready to do just about the same for turn 4, just not quite as long. Very awkward section, the entire sector 1. Actually, essentially everything from Sector 1 through Sector 2, very unique. Don't really come across these sort of track layouts at many other tracks. I would say Zandvoort would probably be one of the closest in my opinion. And up the hill for 7 and 8, very tricky chicane, and then the off-putting very long right-hander to get set up wide and run as fast and as far as you can into turn 10. Very easy to overshoot this braking zone. Need to get that car rotated early and then bring it around for the second set of S's of 11 and 12. Very, very crucial to get this section spot on, especially in qualifying, as there is a ton of time to lose. And then quickly transitioning the car into the 90-degree right-hander and then 90-degree left and right of the final chicane of 14 and 15 before we come through the long, long right-hander of 16. That turn 13, 14, 15 complex. Very, very tricky to not get on those sausage curbs. Very easy to go beyond the limit and push that car a little bit too far. Especially with the cars coming out of the pit lane. Pit cycling could cause some very early hiccups for leaders that are coming through. They may have a lot of back markers ahead, and it is very hard to get past some of that traffic. You can find your way through, and there's plenty of room for traffic to get out of the way should they see themselves as a hindrance to the leader, but they would not be necessarily obligated to. So we have a couple offs at turns 15 and 16. Just very crucial to put the power down as early as possible. A lot of time to be lost, especially down these long straightaways. As we've got about 4 minutes left before we get into our qualifying session, just like to remind everybody tuning in, make sure that you drink your water. Granted, or given you are racing or not racing, just make sure you stay hydrated, as I will be doing the same. The sausage curb on the inside of turns 13, 14, and 15 can make or break your lap, as we see Trixit pulling off to the left-hand side of the track by a window to get some good laps in, but Ormiston and the Mustang just behind, and I believe that is Kelta, not Kelta in the Aston Martin. Kelta has gone to the Ferrari. That was Pro Platypus in the Aston Martin, doing a little bit of pit lane practice, kind of riding the wall a little bit. That would add some time to the pit stop for damage repair. I don't think that's exactly the line that you would want to take through there. Ormiston now top of the timing boards, just 0.03 of a second ahead of your mom in the McLaren. And then it's a Ferrari 3, 4, 5 from there on back. Ferrari's definitely showing some pace, especially the team of Aramich and Trixit, I believe. I believe they are teamed up together. Slapshot in the bronze Ferrari. Pro Platypus in the Gulf Aston Martin coming out of the pit lane now. Brad in the green and white BMW trying to get some laps in here. The field is very, very tight. It was 2 seconds from P1 to P20. Now it is 1.3 from P1 to P20. 2 seconds all the way back to P27. And we've got 40 drivers at least on the grid now. Do have room for some more. It is quite the large grid, as we have definitely got a long battle ahead. As you lose, or you set a poor lap in qualifying, you lose quite a few positions. In most leagues you may lose 1 or 2. Here this is starting to be heralded as the fastest league on ACC, and you see the times coming down, rivaling those that you would see in low fuel motorsport, as the field is very, very close. And qualifying here will be extremely crucial. Ormiston right now the favorite, not by much ahead of your mom in the McLaren though. Ormiston just 0.03 of a second, and getting squirrely through the S's, backs out of this lap. Aramich looking to find some time. Your mom in the pit lane. Aramich on their second to last lap will be able to get another lap here shortly. Thank you for the Prime subscription, Justin. I greatly appreciate that. Aramich with about 50 seconds left on the clock. Should be about 40 by the time he crosses the start-finish line. Looking for an improvement here, but maybe running the laps a little too early, as you do not want to waste your good lap. Trixit also on a lap, but this will be their final flying lap. Slapshot in the pit lane, Prieto in the pit lane. The majority of the field is in the pit lane. Ormiston still at the top, but I believe it was Leclerc going past Trixit there that shuffled the order. Aramich looking to improve, needs 0.3, but doesn't really mean anything right now, as it is just going to be for bragging rights here at the end of free practice. But I think Aramich is just looking to see whether or not he's got the pace. Maybe we'll back out of it before the lap is done, as to not show too much of your cards. And we will see what Aramich is able to put together here. Car number 711 of Rogue. Couple of seconds off the pace right now, but is only free practice. Does not really mean too much. We'll see if they are able to improve on their lap time. Car number 7 just behind of Kelta, invalidating the lap. Not an improvement from Rogue. Aramich in the number 1 at 296, a little deep into the chicane. That is going to cost some time, and this is likely not going to be the lap, and Aramich dives into the pit lane to get some pit practice. Very, very sketchy entrance into the pit lane, and I believe that was speeding there, as we get ready to transition into qualifying. The 555 of Alex coming out of the final corner, 44 up ahead, pulling into the pit lane, and that is going to be it.
Go, go, go.
As the field scrambles out for position, who's going to be the one in front? It's Silth in the Ferrari 296. Will be the first taker and will have the clean air to get this car warmed up. The rest of the field is going to be deep in traffic as we look at the rest of the field behind. There is quite a gaggle of cars as everyone looks to slot into position, find their line, and get their qualifying laps put together. But with this many cars on track, it is definitely going to be a battle early as you jockey for position on track. There is only so much real estate, and it is very limited. As Silth looking to run away from the Audi of Ouroboros, I believe. That may be Ouroboros. That is not Ouroboros. That is actually the Audi of Prieto. Is not the Audi of Prieto. Who is driving that Audi? That is Wrath. So Silth and Wrath up ahead. And we'll see if maybe the Audi is looking to pull along with that slipstream, maybe get some help on this lap. And I believe the Audi has actually opened up a gap here to the Ferrari to get out of that dirty air. You do not want the dirty air to wash the front end of the car around, as that would cause a little bit of lessened aerodynamic impact. And very easy off the curbs from Silth coming through the chicane. Not going to risk it getting the maximum power down for the exit of 16. And then coming across the line to start the first flying lap. The track is optimum, and we do have that hot track that we were looking at before, so it is very, very sticky out there. Good in the short term, but not very good in the long term, as we are going to have a ton of rubber coming off of these cars, and there is quite the queue at the chicane. Everyone waiting to get that clean air. Nobody wanting to go out beside anyone else. They've all got cooties, I guess, as everyone looks to keep their distance. I didn't know we had social distancing in racing, but everyone looking to find their space on track. That limited real estate that I was talking about earlier definitely showing its face, as that entire group of cars still queued up at the final chicane. And as Silth is coming through, there is still quite a bit of the field that needs to get out of the way, as cars all the way back, as they now finally get a move on. I think Silth may have been seeing all of those yellow flags up there and thinking, what is going on? You would think that there was a checkpoint there as they were stopping cars, but no, everyone was just trying to find their little room on track as everyone did their outlap to warm up the tires. And with 40 cars on track, it is going to be quite the busy qualifying. More like your drive home from work in rush hour traffic rather than a sequenced qualifying session. And Silth now with some slipstream of the McLaren ahead. Wonder if that was maybe some team orders there. A 145, but immediately knocked down by Wrath, and then immediately knocked down by Peach. Brad, as the times come filing in, very, very close. Everyone close together. One of my old TRC gents of Harrell there, racing in the Ford Mustang. Good to see you, Harrell. Slapshot up at the top of the timing boards, a 44.3 for Slapshot. And what will it be? Ormiston into P2 in the Mustang, just a tenth off the top four within a quarter of a second. And now the traffic to be dealt with for the rest of the session, as there is quite the gaggle of cars here coming into turns 7 and 8. Slapshot going around the Porsche of Brute there, the number 24 Golf liveried Porsche. Slapshot still up in the front. Sorry, that was Peach in the Mustang going by, not Slapshot. Now the field just trying to find their own. Slapshot with a bit of clean air. The Porsche of Brute going back into the pit lane. And what have we got up here? There is quite the group of cars all together. Peach in the best spot there, as the rest of the field will just have to line up behind. Twigman now just a 10th off the teammates at the top of the timing board. It's a 1-2 for the bronze boys. And still quite the group of cars. As we look behind, there is quite a few back there. I was looking for that McLaren. I believe it may have been the McLaren of Nate. Looking to get a flying lap in, allowing some of the traffic to go by there. Your Mom in the McLaren now up at the top of the timing boards. Now just 0.05 of a second between Your Mom and Trixit. As it's still, actually no, Trixit demoting Slapshot down, but still only marginal amounts of time that need to be made to improve on the qualifying position, as there is quite the close proximity between times. The top 20 within a second and a half, top 23 within 2, and a quarter of the field not yet qualified, as we now have 41 drivers in total on the grid. The Aston Martin's not quite up there yet. Pro Platypus in the Gulf liveried Aston Martin looking to improve. The Aston Martin of Batman, I believe that's an aptly liveried car there. The 3 of Ouroboros into the pit lane. Off the jacks and back out again. Aramich still the pole sitter here, provisional pole sitter, as anything can happen with those deltas between the times, as Brad in the BMW now looking to chase the pole sitter, see if there is any time to be made there. Still a few of the cars, Rowden yet to put a time in, one of the Superbaked Racing admins there, or just on the Superbaked staff. Profit in the McLaren looking to get a time in. Pro Stock looking to put a time in the McLaren. Leclerc in the Gulf liveried Ferrari 296 looking to get a time. Sierra still in the pit lane. Alex, a driver who we can likely see in the top 10, yet to put a lap time, or a valid lap time together, that is. Rogue also yet to put a valid lap time, and Matage yet to get a lap put together as well. Ormiston back up into the pole position. A 43.9, the first to dip into the 43s, but I don't think they will be the last as we wait for this qualifying session to come to a close here in about 6 minutes. Aramich now P2, Your Mom P3, Trixit P4, Slapshot P5. Quite a few liveries out here. The Audis all seem to be running Audi liveries. Not much of a creative liberty taken with those. And then we do have Giant and I believe Mad Psycaster in the Manti EMA Grello liveries. Matage putting a lap time together in that silver and red, or gray and red, Porsche 992 GT3R. Ricky Bobby in the pink and blue Porsche 992. As we are continuing on with the times, I believe those are going to be teammates there between Autry and Ricky Bobby, running very similar colored paint schemes. Langley looking to improve, currently P24, but a lot of time to be made with just a couple tenths improvement, or a lot of spaces to be made with just a couple tenths improvement. As we approach the 5-minute warning, it is a tie, 0-0-0 between Ormiston and Peach. The Ford Mustangs definitely showing that they are consistent on top. Aramich now just 0.03 of a second. Your top 3, your podium, within less than 3 3 hundredths of a second, less than 30 thousandths of a second, splitting the top three. If any of them maybe just takes a glove off and throws it out the window, that'd be enough weight to use or to gain that little bit extra speed. Even just a couple liters fuel difference between them. As now the top 20 within less than 8 tenths of a second. The top 25 within a second and a half. As we have had a few cars off. Car number 57 of Nomad off on the side, I believe waiting for an open spot. Nope, diving back into the pit lane. Sylph was our first one out of the pit lane to start this qualifying session, currently sitting in P13. And with just 4 minutes left, a couple laps left to go. It is now crunch time, but still the top 10, or I say the top 12 within half a second. Aramich now eclipsing the two sister Mustangs as they still hold the exact same lap time. Now Prieto and the Audi to the top of the timing boards. It is now Audi, Ferrari, Ford for the top three. And it is Ford Mustangs locking out the second row currently, but still plenty of positions to be made as this qualifying session is extremely close. We should see the top 20. We do see the top 20 all within less than 1 second. 0.990 from P21 to P1 as Prieto, a 43.8 Aramich, the 43.87, then Ormiston and Peach both with 43.9s. Your mom in the McLaren, one of the favorites for pole position, yet to get onto the podium. Still plenty of time to be made. We'll have this lap and one more to get these lap times put together. For some of the field, it is over, as they may not have enough time. Actually, everyone should have enough time if they were sitting in the pit lane to get back out and get another lap put together. Pro Stock in the McLaren backwards at turn number 5, taking that car to the pit lane. Prieto in the pit lane, Aramich in the pit lane. Ormiston still out trying to find that little bit of time, and it is only a little bit of time, just a 1/10 and a half needed for pole position. Same for Peach though, but Peach is in the pit lane, and I believe that is going to be the end of their qualifying. Actually, Aramich coming out will have one more flying lap and probably no fuel in that thing. Prieto will not get another lap. Aramich, it's got to be perfect, no mistakes, but does have an opening. As, let's see, Dingham currently P27, but still this lap and one more to improve. Prieto locked in, currently in pole, will not be able to improve. Aramich out, or just coming out of the pit lane, will have this lap and one more. This out lap and one more. Ormiston will have this lap and one more. Is it an improvement? Is it pole position for Ormiston? I don't think it is, and it's got to be everything on this lap if it is going to be pole position. Peach, P4, the top position, will not be able to improve. Prieto will not be able to improve. Your Mom still out on track. Trixit still out on track, as Your Mom will be able to get this lap done. Trixit will be cutting it down to the wire, but not sure exactly if they will have enough time. Slapshot will be cutting it down to the wire. Twigman will have this lap, or this next lap to complete. Sylph, I don't think will be able to improve or be able to get another lap in. This will be Sylph's final lap. Ormiston, this is not what they wanted. Traffic up ahead. The McLaren of, I believe that is the number 57, not the number 57, that is the number 12 McLaren of Profit, and they actually went off at turn number 8. But Ormiston is not going to be very happy with that. That is going to be a hindrance on the lap, as we now get ready to count the times as they come across the line. Car number 75 will just barely squeak across the line. Rath will go for another lap. The 416 of Slapshot will go for another lap, and the 443 of Silth will go for another lap. But that is going to be it. This is the final laps as the clock has now hit 0. The number 28 will not improve. The number 34 of Dingham will improve up to P27. The number 314, the one to watch as we are looking to see if they will be able to snag pole position. Still liking the lap, still on the lap. What is it going to be? It is going to be P4 for Ormiston at least. P4 at best. The number 27, Yakashokis, Lamborghini coming across. It is P31 for Yakashokis, not going to improve. Car number 51. That is going to be Leclerc, still yet to set a time. Just setting a time improves by 5 positions. And it is going to be P25 for Leclerc, car number 11, Salinas in the Mustang, currently P18 looking to improve. Is it going to be an improvement? Nice and wide through the final corner. It is not going to be an improvement. P18 for Salinas, car number 86 of Trixit looking to improve. This is going to be it for Trixit. There is no more from here on out. And will it be an improvement? Maybe onto the front 2 rows or maybe onto pole for Trixit. It is not. P7 for Trixit, car number 114. Harrell, P17, car number 19. Mataj, P23, car number 75 of Rath, the Audi. Is it going to be an improvement? It will be an improvement up to P11. Car number 443 of Silth. It is not going to be an improvement, just back to P4 for Silth. Well, as they qualify, Prieto P1, Aramich P2. Prieto, your pole sitter. But purple sectors all throughout, and Prieto did not have a single purple sector, so that's going to be very interesting later on in the race. Prieto P1, Aramich P2, Silth P3, Ormiston P4, Peach P5, Your Mom P6, Trixit P7, Ouroboros P8, Slapshot P9, Twigman P10, Wrath P11, Brad P12, Giant P13, Kelta P14, Brute P15, Pop P16, Harold P17, Salinas P18, Ricky Bobby P19, Platypus P20, Mad Psycaster P21, Georgester P22, Mataj P23, Langley P24, Leclerc P25, Cade P26, Autry P27, Dingham P28, Nate P29, Alex P30. So I get back to those. Alex P30, Energy P31, Nomad P32, Yakashokis P33, Batman P34, Rogue P35, Slinky P36, Christian B P37, Prostock P38, Prophet P39, Rowden P40, and Sierra P41. The times, as close as they were, it was less than a second all the way down to P22. As I believe we do have a split. Silvers here with Harrell. Harrell leading the Silvers. Georgester P2, Mataj P3, Langley P4, Leclerc P5, Cade P6, Dingham P7, Nate P8, Alex P9, Energy P10, Nomad P11, Yakashokis P12, Batman P13, Rogue P14, Slinky P15, Christian B P16, Prostock P17, Prophet P18, Rowden P19, and Sierra P20. Well, let's get ready to race here, as we now have the full field on the line. And on board with Creators, we should be engines fired here in about 15 seconds. As Prieto should be getting this Audi fired up for us here in a second. We are now fired up, as my Porsche is going to be kicked into the pit lane. We will ride on board with Prieto as he leads us off the line. The revs climb, and Prieto leads the field off the line. As we do have Aramich a little bit of a laggard behind, yet to leave the line. Did hit drive, though. But Aramich needs to get that Ferrari rolling if you don't want to get teleported as the rest of the field cycles their way through. We have quite the group of cars on track. Aramich now rolling, but has quite the job to do to get that back up to avoid the teleportation for being out of line. Should be able to get back up there, but it's going to be quite the run. Don't want to get any damage doing this either, but don't want to get sent to the pit lane, and as Aramich is completely sending it over the curb. Hopefully not getting any suspension damage there, and Aramich did not make it in time. Will start from the pit lane. That's not going to be how Aramich wanted to start their season, but it could be a blessing in disguise, as Silth will now take P2. And Aramich and Your Mom both starting from the pit lane, and we have the McLaren of Pro Stock also in the pit lane. But quite a large group of cars here, as going all the way back. Let's get a look at some of these liveries here, as we have quite a few Gulf liveries, some that you may be able to tell our teammates. I don't think many of the Gulf liveries are teammates, but quite the mixed bag of manufacturers. There are quite a few Ferraris, quite a few McLarens, and a couple Mustangs, but the Mustangs that are out there definitely seem to be having some pace. I think the least amount of, cars per manufacturer is going to be Aston Martin. As we look back on the rest of the field, coming on to the back straight, I'd like to take this time to just ask you all, if you are not tuned in, or if you are not following the Twitch, I would greatly appreciate it if you were trying to hit 350 followers, and if you would like to join my personal Discord server, acting as a hub between all leagues and broadcasters. If you would like a broadcaster to join your league, hopefully at some point I'll have broadcasters to get set up with leagues. And if you would like to consider subscribing or using your Twitch Prime subscription and supporting the stream that way, I would greatly appreciate it. With Aramich not starting this race, it does leave Prieto all alone at the front of the grid as they get their 2x2 call. Slapshot also not taking their position on the grid. And Prieto will lead us to the start-finish line to take the green flag. Brute in the Porsche does get a drive-through penalty for a starting infringement, but they are all through the field, 3 wide in some spots, as it is going to be very tricky here as we come into turn 1. Hopefully no antics, no shenanigans. And the rest of the field just trying to make their way through nicely. It is 3 wide, but they do negotiate it somewhat cleanly. A little bit of argy-bargy, doors bumping together as they come through turns 3 and 4. Still side by side as everyone tries to assume their position. And as the timing boards do their thing and get back up to where they're supposed to be, Prieto in the Audi still your leader, with Ormiston in the Mustang just behind. We have had an off, and it is the McLaren of Twigman as they are now 3 wide. Twigman hard into the wall. Does hold the brakes and keep that McLaren from re-entering the racing surface, but that is a hard hit for the McLaren and not looking good so far for that McLaren there of Twigman. Slapshot now having to start from the back. The teammate not looking good for their team. We do have some maybe early moves for position going back through the rest of the field. The Manti EMA Porsches are beside each other, but we do have a bit of a battle here between the Aston Martin of Platypus and the Porsche of Giant, but the Aston Martin is getting shuffled behind the BMW of Langley, trying around the outside, but in an inopportune position, and the 555 of Alex backwards at turn number 12. It is going to be Prieto leading the first lap, but will they lead the second as Ormston all over the rear of that Audi? That Mustang definitely having the top speed as they go side by side into turn 1. Hard on the brakes. The Mustang will now have the inside for turn 2, but the Audi will have the inside for turn 3. And I think the Audi will assume the lead once again. Silth now down to P3. Peach and the Mustang trying to find their way forward, and Trixit trying to find their way onto the back of this group. A battle for P2, though, and Prieto is going to love this as it just opens the door for the Audi to run away. Trying to go side by side around turn 5. The Ferrari will just link between the two Porsches. It is, or not Porsches, Mustangs there. It is Mustang, Ferrari, P2, 3, 4, and 5, and that's just going to allow the Audi of Prieto to open up that gap and try to run away. Rest of the field behind just trying to cycle through, as it is not anyone's race to win just yet. It is everyone's race to lose, though, as there is plenty of time for strategy and chaos as we continue on with this race. Ormston still trying to find a move past the Audi of Prieto, Silton the Ferrari, and now Peach and the Mustang under attack from Trixit, or looking to be very soon, as your lead pack here. Peach gets a poor exit out of the chicane, and that will lead to a poor run down the pit straight. Is it defensive for Peach? Will they be able to defend against that Ferrari with that top speed? I don't know if they will. And that Ferrari will not be able to contend for P4 or P3. Or actually, no, that is P4. That is Trixit in the yellow. That Ferrari will not be able to contend for P4 at this time. As the rest of the field, everyone just trying to find their pace, find their footing, and get started with the moves later on. As Ormston still trying to find some pace and get onto the rear of that Audi, as there is a small gap forming between the Mustang of Ormston and the Ferrari of Silth. As the field continues on, Brute in the Porsche was able, or actually no, unable. I think they may have had an issue as they are now at the very back of the field. Did qualify quite a ways up the order, and with the drive-through, they will be losing a lap here very soon. Twigman, not sure if that's an error there or if they got that damage repaired. I would be surprised if they did, but I think they may have, with a pit stop cleared. Slapshot also clearing a pit stop. Very early strategy there. As I think strategy, or Slapshot looks to go long on strategy here and run this out to the end of the race. It is very doable, with, or at least fuel-wise, but it is a little tricky tires-wise, but that may be the strategy to run. Battle here continuing on for the lead as they are closing in on back markers ahead. The 416 of Slapshot was up in the top 10, looking to hold on to the top 10 as they are running away from the leaders. Will be on a different pit strategy, but doing everything they can. Cannot afford to get lapped here. We have a couple battles here between Ferraris, McLarens, Porsches, and Aston Martins. Kelta in the 296. Gap grown to the BMW ahead, well, the BMW of Brad that has just gone past the Mustang of Harrell. Kelta trying to close the gap on those cars ahead, as this would be a split between packs. The battling BMW and Mustang up ahead have also opened a gap, as they may be at risk of losing the lead pack. Kilta looking to lead this gaggle of cars behind on to the rear of the main pack ahead. Slapshot with no slipstream to help is very much going to be under attack from this hard charging field behind, but they just need to continue on, get their head down, and push forward. Twigman now is a lap down, but is on a different different strategy. But Pop was in that gaggle of 4 cars behind Kelta. Does go around car number 221 of Giant. I believe that is one of the Porsches around at the chicane. Now an early entry into the pit lane, changing up the strategy for that Porsche, as maybe a door closes, a window open way of looking at the strategy there. Silth with the fastest lap in the Ferrari 296. As we are now definitely have a gap forming between the Porsche of Mad Psycaster. I think that may have been induced by the McLaren of Pop that went around on the lap prior. Kelta now trying to find the rear of the group ahead, but is just outside of that slipstream range. Desperately needs to get on to that slipstream, or else they will be running in no man's land before too long. Slapshot still ahead, and will that traffic become a factor in this battle for the lead between Prieto and Ormiston? Peach also closing up onto the back of that Ferrari of Silth. Wrath and Ouroboros 2x2 through the final chicane, and there's a door check there, or a hip check, I should say, a little bit of argy-bargy there. Wrath does find the position. Ouroboros barely gets ahead, but now we've got a 3 or 4-way battle for position. Harrell using that Mustang's top speed to get the run on Brad and the BMW into turn 1. And late on the brakes down to the inside does put you on the suboptimal line, but Harrell able to close the door on that move and get that position taken away, but needs to focus forward on the cars ahead, as now there has definitely been a gap grown. A few back markers behind as they are on different pit strategies. Some very early takers for the pit lane, albeit by their own intuition or outside forces. The leading duo all up on their lonesome, and the battle for P3 behind still raging between Silth and Peach. Peach and the Mustang looking to close that gap and maybe get the move past the Ferrari here, as I'm sure he can see, or they can see, that gap to the cars ahead growing and growing. Trixit also loving every bit of this, able to stay on the back of this group ahead. And just a little bit further, a big slide from Ouroboros will open the door for Harrell, I believe, into turn 12. As I think Ouroboros may have a little bit of trouble with pace in that Audi. Was very, very quick in free practice, but yet to find that pace here in the race. A queue of cars lining up behind. And Harrell in the Mustang will see how that slipstream and superior top speed fares over the Audi of Ouroboros. Harrell feints the move, goes around to the outside, tries the late braking move. Brad has to go even further to the outside. 3-way battle for position here for P7. Harrell trying to attack against Ouroboros, but also trying to defend against Brad. Looks to be enough so far. Back onto the battle for the lead. Ormiston has taken the lead. I believe they're into turn number 4, as Ormiston looks to run away as long as Prieto can't get a quick answer back, but that Mustang definitely showing some superior speed ahead of the Audi. And this battle has definitely sparked up as we now may have an Audi falling back in positions, falling into the clutches of the Ferrari and Mustang of Silth and Peach. And does Prieto, if they are unable to get this position back, does it open up the door for the different strategy? Maybe go for the undercut and try to close that gap up and defend later on in the race. Battles all through the field side by side between the McLaren and Porsche of Pop and Georgester. Very close here between Slinky and Alex. Alex did go around earlier in this race and trying to regain those positions. Nomad in the BMW trying to find the slipstream of Batman and the Aston Martin up ahead. Ormiston now growing that gap to the Audi of Prieto behind, and if Prieto is unable to get into the slipstream of that Mustang will absolutely run away down the straights. Car number 25, Christian and Alex having a scrap here. There was yellow flags thrown for both of these cars. Peach now under attack from Trixit as Silth has opened up the gap. The leaders still in contention of each other, as Prieto in the Audi does seem to be a little bit better handling through the turns, but unable to keep up down the straights. We'll see if Prieto is in the slipstream range as they come onto the back straight here. As they come to this next timing line, we'll see what the gap is. Right at 3/4 of a second, does barely keep that Audi in slipstream range. As we are now a third of the way through this race, we do open the door for some pit strategy for the leaders here. Remember, we do have your mom in the McLaren on different pit strategy. Where is Slapshot? Have we lost Slapshot? Have we lost... what was the other bronze McLaren? Your mom on a different pit strategy at the back of the field, looking to make up some positions that way. But it seems to be that we have lost some drivers early in this race. They have retired the car and put it on the trailer. Silth now looking to be under attack from Peach. Peach was under attack from Trixit, but that Mustang definitely able to pull away from the Ferraris down the straights. And we have a couple entries into pit lane. Pop and Leclerc, the McLaren and Ferrari, looking to be on scheduled pit stops there. Ormiston still just barely ahead of Prieto, and that gap seems to be holding. Ormiston is not necessarily losing that Audi. We'll have to wait when they get scored yet again, but I think that Audi just barely holding on to that slipstream of the Mustang up ahead. As they run down the back straight towards turn 10, the Audi much closer than previous. The gap was 3/4 of a second the lap prior, now a 1/10 of a second closer, as that Audi is definitely putting some pressure onto the Mustang. Kelta and Platypus, as Brad has to go wide, that will afford Kelta the position and maybe will afford Platypus the position. Looking to go on the inside of Brad into turn 13. We'll have to get early on the brakes to not make contact. And when do we see our leaders come into the pit lane, as we have a four-way battle for position? As Brad comes into the pit lane on a scheduled stop, looking to make up some ground there. The Audi and Mustang still in battle, as the gap behind is growing and growing. A little bit of a wobble from Peach out of 2 does open up the door for Trixit, as Trixit gets a much better run on the Mustang. Will it be a late braking move into turn 4? Will not be here, but the door is now open. I think that Mustang may be dealing with a little bit of rear tire wear. And that 296 of Trixit smells blood in the water. Aramich, now the fastest lap of the race, did start from the pit lane. Unfortunately, with that driver not hitting drive as they were sitting on the line. Prieto still holding 6.5 tenths to the Mustang. Is that gap even closer? Back to that 3/4 of a second. It is a hard-fought battle here for the lead. Brad in that BMW coming out of the pit lane. And in pretty much clean air does have the McLaren of Profit just beside. Battling sister Porsches here of Ricky Bobby and Georgester. And the rest of the field behind just lining up in a queue, all separating by their pace. Aramich, with quite a few cars to go through here, is holding the fastest lap and does seem to be showing the fastest pace. Ormiston and Prieto, as Prieto maybe gets a poor exit into turn 1 and maybe a poor exit out of turn 2. As we look to see if Prieto can close this gap on the Mustang of Ormiston, or if it's going to come down to pit strategy. A perfect stop from the Audi of Prieto would be great, and I believe would be the amount of time needed to close up the gap. Dingham into the pit lane in the McLaren, as we are starting to have some more takers, but the top 20 still yet to pit. And the gap growing between the Mustang and Audi. Still holding on to P3 ahead of the Mustang of Peach, and Trixit still unable to get that position. Wrath in the Audi now making an appearance, slowly creeping towards the back of this lead pack. Ouroboros in the Audi with Harrell in the Mustang. Harrell hungry for P7. Just needs to find a way to get past the Audi. The Audis are showing maybe a little bit of a disadvantage in later stint pace as we are approaching the halfway point. When do we see some takers of the leaders here? Dingham coming out of the pit lane. Only a few cars so far have taken their pit stops as we look to see some more. Does Prieto wait for the Mustang to come in and try to get a better stop, or does Prieto go for the undercut? Platypus into the pit lane, the first of the leaders to come in, as it's got to be a perfect stop from Platypus. Definitely some time to be made on that stop. And side by side, the Ferrari and Mustang. Ford versus Ferrari here, as Silth defending against Peach, but that podium position is definitely under threat here, as Peach trying everything to get that move on, get that pressure applied, force the mistake from Silth. And will that mistake come as they head into turn 7 and 8? Now the Mustang will be fully onto the back of that Ferrari 296 and will definitely be within slipstream range. That Mustang does have a lot higher top speed than anything else on the rest of the grid. We'll see if that Mustang is able to pull alongside into turn 10. It'll have to be a late braking move. Feints the move, does not pull back in line, and that will ultimately put them on a suboptimal line out of turns 11 and 12. That is the McLaren. The number 44 McLaren of Pro Stock pulled over to the side of the track, I believe allowing the rest of the field to go through. Still no takers at the top. Actually, we have a first taker here, Peach pitting from P4. We'll see if the undercut is strong. I believe Wrath also coming into the pit lane. Now we've got some early takers of our leaders. Kelta also coming into the pit lane, cannot afford a stop and go penalty for speeding in pit lane. These stops have to be perfect. Also, if you don't want to lose any time, these stops have to be perfect. The gap between Ormiston and Prieto now grown by quite a bit. And as Peach dove into the pit lane, now there is a void between the Ferraris of Silth and Trixit. Harrell and Ouroboros still fighting for position here, and I want to say there was a battle going on there, but I believe that is the Porsche of Mad Psycaster catching up to the Aston Martin of Batman. Batman does allow Mad Psycaster to go past. Nate into the pit lane in that McLaren. Salinas into the pit lane in the Mustang. Peach, the one to watch. We'll see how strong this undercut is. It is a perfect stop from both, as Peach does not lose any time to Wrath in the Audi behind. Kelta should be off the jacks soon, is off the jacks. Salinas and Nate in the pit lane. Christian B. Rowden coming into the pit lane. Slinky with some damage on that Mustang also coming into the pit lane. As we get the halfway call from race control, when do our leaders come in? Will surely be suffering some tire wear. Does Prieto go for the undercut? Does go for the undercut. And now we will see how much time can be made in the pit lane. Prieto knows that they were losing some time. Needs to be a perfect stop. We also have Silth and Trixit coming into the pit lane. Is Ormiston going to be caught out? Harrell also diving into the pit lane. Hopefully no speeding penalties from anyone here. Mad Psycaster coming in. The leaders are coming in except for the overall race leader. Ouroboros also stayed out, maybe hoping for some later race pace in that Audi or the ability to defend some positions when the rest of the field comes out, and eventually Ouroboros comes in. Now the party in the pit lane has begun. Make sure you're on the list as everyone is coming into the pit lane. Mataj, Georgester, Cabe. We should see more cars coming into the pit lane. As Prieto off the jacks, we'll see if there is going to be any improvement made. Silth is the next one behind. Should not lose a position, or Prieto should not lose a position to Silth, but Silth should be off the jacks here any moment now. Trixit off the jacks, Silth off the jacks, and is Trixit going to get a position here? No, they are not, but it is very, very close. Perfect stops from everyone, though. There has been no major changes in position in the pit lane. Harrell now behind Trixit, I believe may have gotten a position there, but I'm not sure. Actually, I don't think so. Still quite a few cars yet to come into the pit lane. Nomad now P7, Energy P6, Ricky Bobby P5. Some new drivers in the top 10. Yakashokas P8. As Sierra comes into the pit lane, Christian B in the pit lane. And Ormiston still out, staying out, going a couple more laps. Will this come to bite Ormiston later on? Is there enough of a pace difference between now Prieto and Ormiston? Is Prieto going to assume the lead when Ormiston ultimately comes into the pit lane? Ouroboros now a little ways, actually quite a ways behind, almost 2 corners behind. Is Ouroboros gaining position? Langley coming into the pit lane. Aramich coming into the pit lane. Currently finds himself P4, but we'll have to see how they stand after the pit cycle. Car number 25, Christian B getting a 30-second stop and go, opting not to repair the damage on that Mustang, but might as well have, as they will be coming into the pit lane, and that will be time lost. Profit with some damage on that McLaren, likely going to be repairing that damage. Langley in the pit lane, Aramich in the pit lane, Ricky Bobby coming into the pit lane, Energy coming into the pit lane. As we still await our overall race leader for their entrance into the pit lane. Ouroboros P2 still yet to come into the pit lane. Nomad also still yet to come into the pit lane. As Aramich looks to be rolling out now and will slot back into position a ways down. I believe it is going to be P20 for Aramich when they get scored next, but does have the pace to close up many positions. Ormiston now into the pit lane, and this is the race to watch. Prieto coming into turn 7 and 8 Is Prieto going to get this lead back as Ormiston is in the pit lane? It needs to be a perfect stop from Ormiston. Still yet to go into the pit lane. And it is a good stop. Shuts the car down up on the jacks, but will Prieto make it around in time? It is the race between the leading duo. Prieto got the undercut by about a couple laps, does have lap traffic up ahead, hopefully not hindering the pace too much. Ormiston waiting to come off the jacks, watching that delta, waiting to see if Ormiston will hold on to the lead, but that lap traffic up ahead definitely not helping as the Lamborghini now peels off into the pit lane. Prieto should be off the jacks Ormiston should be off the jacks. Ormiston is off the jacks, hits the speed limiter board, and Prieto comes out, but it is going to be an undercut lead swap as Ormiston tries to get that Mustang back up to speed. Ormiston will have the newer tires, but now Prieto has gotten the undercut done and is your overall leader on strategy. Ouroboros yet to come into the pit lane, and unsure of exactly how long their staying out will affect their position. Nomad into the pit lane as the field comes by. Yakashokas into the pit lane. That was the Lamborghini ahead of Prieto, the Audi. Rowden still yet to come into the pit lane. So we have lost a few more as they have taken that car and put it on the trailer. Ouroboros going very, very long. Car number 25 of Christian B clearing their stop and go penalty. Aramich finds himself in P16 after starting from the pit lane from P2. Looking to recover quite a few positions, but no one else to go past in terms of pit stops except for Ouroboros still yet to come in. Prieto will be scored your provisional leader. Car number 999 of Sierra with an off at turn 15. Does get that car righted and back onto the racing surface. Trixit with Sylth and Wrath, all three here battling for what will end up being P4 overall, as Peach has also gotten the undercut on that group behind, currently sitting what will be P3 once Ouroboros comes into the pit lane. Prieto with warmed up tires against Ormiston in the Mustang that is still coming into form. And Peach just behind, waiting to pick up any scraps if there are any left to do so. Rogue gets a drive-through penalty for track limits. And a bit of argy-bargy there. Unsure of exactly what that was for and who that was between. That was maybe the number 1 Ferrari of Aramich. A little bit of tempers flaring there, as I'm unsure what the full story there is. But drive-through penalty from Rogue, and that was a bump from Aramich. We'll have to wait and see what the stewards say about that one. Ouroboros into the pit lane as we wait for Prieto to come across. I don't think Ouroboros will be able to get or hold on to that lead, but maybe they will hold on to a few positions. Ouroboros now finally gets that Audi stopped, and Prieto coming through turns 10, 11, and 12. Car number 334, the Mustang of Peach, with the battling Ferraris behind of Sylth and Trixit. Wrath looking to pick up any pieces if there are any to be picked up with that battle for what will be P4. Prieto coming out of the final corner. Ouroboros still on the jacks, will not hold on to the lead, but will maybe hold on to a couple positions, as Prieto will now be scored as the leader. But Ouroboros, where do they come out? It will be in the top 10, maybe, if they can get up to speed quick enough. Prieto now scored your leader. Ormiston will be P2, Peach P3, and Sylth and Trixit will be fighting for P4. As Wrath following behind. Harrell in the Mustang trying to close up onto the Aston Martin of Platypus. Harrell now P10, looking to improve further into the top 10. Battle for position here between Aramich and Mataj. Aramich in the Ferrari looking for the position on the Mustang. Side by side as they come into turn number 4. A late braking move from Aramich, and it is contact between Aramich and the Mustang, and that is more contact with Mataj in the silver and gray Porsche. As Aramich now just pushing a little bit too hard, I believe will have more work on their plate. Was into P15, losing a couple positions there. As with as tight as this grid is, one mistake and you are not down 1 or 2 positions, but more like 4 or 5. Harrell now fully onto the back of that Aston Martin of Platypus. And as they come onto the front straight, will that Mustang have enough legs? Will those horses be prancing? Well, I guess that's technically Ferrari, but oh well. Will the Mustangs be running? I don't know if there's a Mustang slang for that, or Mustang phrase for that. But that Mustang looking to put that power down the superior top speed. Will it be enough for a move into turn number 1? It may get close, but I don't think it is going to be quite enough. Will just fall back into position behind. Ormiston is closing the gap to the Audi ahead of Prieto. And Peach with Silth and Trixit fighting behind. Harrell still trying to get past the Aston Martin up ahead, and quite a few cars a little bit further ahead. Battle between Mataj, Salinas, and Langley. 3-way battle for position, or currently a 2-way battle for position with Langley just in tow behind. This is for P14 as Mataj in the Porsche looks to defend this P14. Close racing all over the course, and this is just the first round. It looked like there may have been a swap of positions with cars behind, but I think that was Rowden allowing a few cars to go by. Gap is falling between Ormiston and Prieto looks to be on the defensive here within a couple laps. And the battle for the podium is raging. Peach just looking to hold on. Will have the oldest tires of the bunch. Silth and Trixit on tires that they are the exact same age as they both came into the pit lane within a quarter of a second of each other, just a car length between as they came out of the pit lane. And Wrath seems to be getting dropped a little bit. They do not have any slipstream help of the cars ahead. Harrell now forcing Platypus to go defensive into turn 1, and Harrell looks to go around the outside. Will have to find whatever track they can. 2 tires on the inside curb, and it may be a switcheroo out of 3 as Harrell looks to find the door. The door is closed. Will be forced to look around the outside, maybe look for the window that is left open. And that Aston Martin very, very defensive against the Mustang of Harrell, but as they come into turn 5, will it be a late braking move? It will not. Harrell will wait and use the superior top speed over that Aston Martin to try and get the position into turn 10 as they get onto the back straight. The gap between Ormiston and Prieto has dropped a second and a half in the last 2 or 3 laps. Ormiston still holds the fastest lap of the race, but it is not by much, and it is not a large margin between Prieto and Ormiston. If Ormiston gets into the slipstream of Prieto, it will be very hard for that Audi to defend the cars behind. Trixit with a little bit of the sausage, as I don't believe those Ferraris are very hungry. That does unsettle the car, and it does open the gap up between Silth and Trixit. Prieto and Ormiston. Battle for the lead has been raging this entire race. Prieto did get the strategy right and get the lead back in the pit lane. But is it going to be enough? Does that Audi have enough strength to hold on the rest of this race? The tires are older on the Audi, and we did see that Audi lose some pace later on into the stint. The last thing that Prieto needs is that Mustang of Ormiston to get into the slipstream range, as that will 100% make things exponentially more difficult for Prieto. Harrell and Platypus still with a battle here for P9. And Trixit trying to close the gap up to Silth and the Ferrari ahead, the battle for P4. Peach in a little bit of no man's land, no one ahead, but the battling Ferraris behind does have a little bit of insurance there. Just needs to race their own race. Should be an easy P3 for Peach. Good points there. Langley and Salinas in battle here. Langley looking to close the gap on the Mustang ahead. Harrell and Platypus still definitely locked in battle. As Ormiston all over the rear of the Audi. Maybe it was a mistake. I thought that maybe Prieto in the Audi was going past a back marker, but no, that is the battle for the lead, as the Audi, going very, very, very defensive, will try to force the Mustang around the outside. The Mustang does have decent brakes, and they bang doors coming into turn 1. The Audi holds on, but it is going to be a very tough fight. We'll have about 4 or 5 laps left to go, depending on when they cross the line. And now Prieto has all of their work cut out, as this Mustang definitely seems to be the stronger car later on in the stint. Ormiston also takes the fastest lap back, and Prieto can only drive defensive for so long. Needs to find maybe a little bit of window in that Audi to get that pace back up to speed. But with older tires and seemingly not quite as strong of a car, it is going to be very, very difficult to hold this position to the end of the race. Ormiston, we did see with some more later race paces, Prieto is pushing, but will Ormiston be close enough into turn 10? Will not be, but is all over the rear of that Audi. They do have some traffic ahead, and that will either help or hinder Prieto in the Audi, as the Mustang of Ormiston does go a little bit wide. I think there may have been 2 tires on the sand. Will open up the gap for Prieto. Ormiston maybe a little bit of trouble getting the power down, and I think Prieto will survive another day, survive another lap. The gap has grown slightly over 3/4 of a second, but it does not matter much if that Audi gets outside of slipstream range. That Mustang doesn't need it. And Harrell, I believe, may have had an off in that battle with Pro Platypus, now down to P13. I believe I have missed that action on board with the battle for the lead. Peach still holding on to P3. Sylph and Trixit battling for P4, and Wrath closing ever so slightly onto that battling duo, looking to make it a battling trio. Ormiston in the Mustang. When they come to the next timing line, we'll see how that gap is. The twitch of the Audi up into turn 8, and it's just going to be 3 laps left to go when they come across the line. Now, Ormiston in the Mustang, closing up onto the back of the Audi yet again, but the Audi does seem to have a little bit better pace through the handling sections over the Mustang. Battle for the lead. The leader, or the winner of this race, is not yet decided. Prieto has their work cut out for them. A full 5-course meal of defending that they've got to get through here, as they will have, I believe, 3 laps left at the end, or actually as they come across the line. Now the Audi holding on to enough of an advantage to go offensive into turn number 1. Not going defensive, not getting off of the racing line, not allowing the Mustang to take that advantage away. But the Mustang all over the rear of the Audi as they come out of turn number 3. And now a little bit defensive. Is it going to be a late lunge from Ormiston? It is not. But is that Mustang going to have a little bit better rotation? A slip of the rear from the Mustang as they come around turn 3. Battle for the lead still raging. Also, the battle behind continuing on, some lap traffic, the McLaren of Profit, as we now get some flashing of the lights from Ormiston trying to up the ante, increase the pressure. This is like raising on the river as the stakes are high. And are you willing to stay at the table? As Ormiston and Prieto still with 2 laps left to go. This one and one, or actually this next lap and one more. Depending on how long it takes them to get back to the line, I think they will have one more lap after this next lap. But very big moment from Prieto in the Audi into the hard braking zone for the chicane. And it will be one more lap after this, as Prieto will come across the line with about 6 or 7 seconds left. Has 2 more laps to survive. It's a lunge from Ormiston as Ormiston tries to make it stick. The Audi assumes the racing line, but they are side by side out of 2 and into 3. The Audi a little bit too hard on the tires, has to go very, very wide, and Ormiston will now take the lead, but it is not over yet. That Audi definitely still has some tire life to get a response here, but Ormiston very late does get this move done. Is it going to be a quick response from Prieto? I believe it would need to be if Prieto has enough car left to fight back and get this position back. Ormiston now scored your leader. Prieto in the Audi desperately needs to try and do everything they can to stay onto the rear of that Mustang, but with the Mustang having fresher tires, I don't know if that will be possible. As they come into turn 10, not for the final time, but for the penultimate time. And it's got to be perfect from Prieto if they're going to have any semblance of a chance of getting this position back. As Peach has had a big moment, Peach is now out of the podium into P6. I was too focused on the battle for the lead. Silth now up into P3, Wrath P4, Trixit P5, and Peach P6. Ouroboros P8 onto the rear of the BMW of Brad.
Okay, the leader is
Aramich P18 currently. Ormiston still up in the lead, and I don't think that Prieto will have much of a fight against that Mustang with fresher tires. The focus now goes on to the battle for positions behind as well. Langley still battling the Mustang of Salinas as well. Ouroboros and the BMW of Brad. Peach now is back onto the back of this group ahead, and I think does get a better run than Trixit. Ormiston with Prieto behind. It's got to be everything that Prieto has got in that Audi if there's going to be any semblance of a chance of getting this position back. It is still close enough for a shout. Any mistake from Ormiston, which no one is immune to mistakes, especially with the pressure this high, this late in the race. It's a race to the line, though, and Prieto's got to do everything they can if they want to close up this gap and have any shout at the win. Prieto is outside of that slipstream range, but does seem to have the better car through turns 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. The rear of that Audi sliding, but does offer some rotation, riding that Audi all the way out to the outside. The gap is close, but is it close enough? As it's got to be a monster move from Prieto. The Mustang does get a slightly poor exit, and the gap will be close, but Ormiston will take home the win here in round 1 of GoFAST Racing GT3 Series. Sylph P3, Wrath P4, Trixit P5, Peach P6, Brad and Ouroboros locked in battle here. Is it going to be a photo finish between? Brad will finish just barely ahead of the Audi of Ouroboros. Platypus P9, Kilta with the Porsche of Mad Psycaster behind. Kilta P10, Mad Psycaster P11, Your Mom P12. Harold looks to take home P13, all on their own. Salinas and Langley battling as they come across the line, and Langley goes too wide. Salinas P14, Langley P15. Mataj and Aramich fighting as they come to the line. Mataj P15, Aramich P16, Georgester P17. Leclerc looks to come across P18, maybe P19, as I think someone may have left up ahead. P18 for Cabe, P19 for Cabe, P20 for Ricky Bobby Dingham, all on their own, looking to take home P21. Nate and Energy here together, as Nate will finish P22 ahead of Energy. As Energy comes across the line, P23. Batman looks to take home P24. They come out of the final corner. P24 for Batman, Nomad P25. With Yakashokus, actually Nomad P25, Yakashokus technically P26 or 27. We have had a few people leave. Alex P26, and that is going to bring an end to round 1. Ormiston with the fastest lap of 43.8. with all purple sectors there in the Mustang. And I believe we do have a second championship. Harrell P1, Langley P2, Mataj P3, Georgester P4, Leclerc P5, Cade P6, Dingham P7, Nate P8, Energy P9, Batman P10, Nomad P11, Yakashokus P12, Alex P13, Sierra P14, Slinky P15, Christian B P16, Rowden P17, Prophet P18, Rogue P19, and Pro Stock P20. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. Thank you, drivers, for racing tonight. As there's my GT2 that I joined the session as. Thank you to everyone for joining. Please consider following if you are not following. Please consider subscribing if you would like to support the streams. You can do it for free with a Twitch Prime gaming subscription. And also, please consider joining my personal Discord server that I have made for the Twitch and YouTube channels. Make sure that if you are not subscribed to the YouTube channel, that you are subscribed to that channel. It is nowhere near the amount of subscribers as I have Twitch followers, but hopefully we can bridge that gap shortly. And join the GoFAST Racing Discord server. This is just round 1. There's plenty more rounds to come. If you would like to be on the broadcast, or if you would like to join in the racing, make sure you join the GoFAST Racing Discord. Thank you all for tuning in, and I will see you all next week for round 2. Have a good night, and thank you for watching.